have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum!
Astro Radio Z is a horror, cult, exploitation film podcast by filmmakers, critics, musicians, journalists, and fans for the film obsessed. Here is your host, Derrick Terry.
Welcome back, Astro Zombies. Here we are doing our first viewer-voted shot-on-video episode. You guys wanted this. For a long time, you wanted this. This was number one. When I scheduled these, this was number one. Now, all of a sudden, you guys want to see redneck zombies more than the next Star Wars movie on Astro Radio Z. But when I scheduled this, this was the number one listener-voted shot-on-video horror film in the Astro Radio Z Facebook group, The Burning Moon by Olaf Ittenbach from 1992.
From the people who brought you the Traces of Death series, Intervision brings America the goriest horror film of them all. The Burning Moon. When the moon is full, the blood tide rises. No matter what you've seen, you ain't seen nothing like this. Banned in 14 countries, straight from the German underground in its original, uncut, uncensored version. The Burning Moon. You want it? Make 'em get it.
Now tonight, for what may perhaps be one of the most depraved and violent movies that we've talked about on Astro Radio Z. Well, that's up for contention, I think. But this used to be the holy grail of gross movies back in the day. I brought on Amanda. She is not super keen on the shot on video stuff, not very versed in it. Not like Mark the Movie Man is now that he is a shot on video horror film aficionado. Amanda is the virgin on this show. I've shown her a few things like Things. And what else have you watched? Do you recall? Nothing? Just Things?
Yeah.
Just Things?
I don't recall. I don't even recall Things.
Things was the weird Canadian movie where it was all overdubbed and they were in a house and the guy was concerned with drinking all his beer out of the cupboard and his wife was getting eaten by bugs. And then all of a sudden Ginger Lynn gets like cut in weirdly from a news broadcast that was obviously shot at another time. You don't remember things?
I don't remember this at all. When did we watch it?
Oh my gosh, Amanda. We watched it early on in our relationship when you wanted to watch the weirdest movie I had.
Oh shit, that was 2 years ago.
Well, I guess we're going to have to talk about things on Astro Radio Z.
Maybe it was an act of self-preservation, just wiped from my mind.
Wow, that breaks my heart, because Things is perhaps one of the greatest cinematic masterpieces of our lifetime.
Shit.
But anyways, so what an episode for you to come on and break your shot on video cherry with us tonight, Amanda. How do you feel going into this episode and watching these shot on video films?
Oh, fine. I don't understand why you think this is like the grossest, most vile thing ever. And maybe it's because I was really anticipating some janky ass shit, but I really didn't think it was that gross or that vile or that big of a deal.
Well, back in the day, you couldn't find this anywhere.
Really?
This was banned in 19 countries.
Wow. That seems like a bit of an overkill.
Well, back in the day, they didn't show the kind of stuff that's in The Burning Moon. But anyway, so Amanda, welcome to the Shot on Video episodes. Of course, I just talked about Mark the Movie Man. Mark the Movie Man, he is now probably the king of shot on video horror films. He loves this stuff. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. And I'm getting really getting into seeing these shot on video films. It's making me wanting to seek out more. So I'm glad I'm doing these episodes, because it's giving me a little bit of a hunger for what else is out there in this wonderful little genre.
Well, this is definitely one of the most infamous shot on video horror films of all time. And so infamous that Mr. Andrew Shearer could not wait to get on this episode. He's like, when are you doing Burning Moon? Here he is. Mr. Andrew Shearer, thank you for coming on with us for another one of these shot on video horror film episodes. How are you doing?
Hey, how did you know I had diarrhea when I asked you when you were recording this?
I just kind of presupposed.
That's
after
exactly what my voice sounded like.
After the Cecil B. Demented episode, I'm guessing you perpetually have diarrhea at all times.
I mean, it's what all the kids are doing. You know. My nickname is Rhea Perlman.
I don't even know what to say to that. It's what diarrhea. It's what all the kids are doing. That sounds like a PSA that you would find on, like, what were those commercials? Did you know, or what is it?
The more you know. Diarrhea has become popular among those between the ages of 13 and 18. It is a popular group. They sometimes have diarrhea parties where they all sit together with their butts out and they drop diarrhea, mix it together, and wonder whose is who. The more you know.
The more you know. It's kind of like that one video I sent you, Amanda, where all the kids were turning into werewolves at high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you learn to get diarrhea like this? It was you, all right.
I learned it from you, Dad.
I watching you have diarrhea. Parents,
You and Mom do diarrhea all the time. You don't think I know, but I know. I hear you in the bedroom.
Now that
shit in a box have children who shit in a box.
Oh my gosh! Now that this episode is completely off the fucking rails,
it is about a German movie. Come on,
it is. Yeah. But surprisingly, there's no Shiza.
There's
in
no
this
Shiza.
So let's go past the diarrhea for now. I'm sure Andrew will bring it up at some point. This is
no, that would be vomit. But
yucky. And then let's go ahead and move on to the movie of the night, which is Olaf Ittenbach's The Burning Moon. a lovely family-friendly film. The Burning Moon is the endearing story of a complete scumbag teenager who is in a gang, is a drug addict. His time cannot be wasted by going and trying to get a job. He'd rather be shooting up drugs and killing people in rival gangs. And one night after a big gang fight, he comes home and his parents force him to babysit his younger sister. He fucking hates this. He is so mad that he has to, how does he put it? Babysit that little bitch. The parents leave after a big brawl. He decides before the girl's bedtime to go in the other room, shoot up some dope, grab this book, and walk into his sister's room and say, hey, I'm going to read you a bedtime story. You want to hear it? And she's not really too keen on it, but he's like, you're going to hear this anyway. This movie is an anthology film, an anthology horror film. Obviously, the wraparound is this kid's story, and then he tells two stories. First one is the story about a serial killer who escapes from the mental hospital where he's killed everybody, and he goes out on a blind date with someone that he has met, and she finds out he's a serial killer, and very violent shit happens. Then, after that, is a story called The Purity, which is a very sweet tale of a priest. He's a serial rapist and Satanist, and his deeds are being pinned on a local farm boy, and all of the village thinks that the farm boy are committing these rapes and murders, and little does the farm boy know it's the priest, and the priest is attempting to resurrect Satan. Or, I don't know, was he trying to resurrect Satan, or was he just trying to I didn't quite
more power.
Give himself more power. He was trying to become the most powerful. It didn't make much sense. But anyways, needless to say, everyone dies, and we wind up in hell where everyone gets torn to absolute fucking shreds. Mm-hmm. And then the movie ends with a suicide. Lovely tale, The Burning Moon. Mark the Movie Man, what did you think about The Burning Moon?
Oh, man. It starts off as a sweet tale, and then we get to that second story, and then I think I text you just what the ever-living fuck. It's interesting. It's interesting what they do with shot on video. And again, we have in here a film that surprises the hell out of me as far as the amount of practical makeup and gore effects that they have in here. And how they look, regardless of the story, production wise, what they did do in here surprised me quite a bit. And it continually does with these shot on video films. As far as the story goes, I did not expect it to be an anthology film. I went into it knowing absolutely nothing outside of, okay, it's The Burning Moon. Let's watch it. That's the title.
I absolutely love the fact that you knew nothing about this. Same with Amanda going in, that this was a completely fresh view for you.
It was a fresh view, and it was a surprise that it was an anthology film, because I'm like, okay, what are we doing with this kid who is got the cleanest arms for a junkie I've ever seen? But I kind of dug it. I dug the story and the fact that it was an anthology film, that kind of appealed to me a bit. The way the stories played out, well, it's kind of falls into what I'm seeing more and more of some of the tropes and some of the common things you see in a shot on video film, as far as how some of them were edited and such. But overall, I kind of dug it. I mean, it was twisted and screwed up, but I appreciated what they were doing there and what they were trying to go for in it. It has many, many, many flaws, but most of these do. So.
Well, you kind of have to set aside all your problems with the production when watching these kind of things, because obviously they're working on very constricted budgets. Mm-hmm. Now, as I said before, this is a very notorious movie. Andrew, do you remember when this came out?
I remember seeing Premutos like either before or not too long after, because I feel like Alternative Cinema released the DVD of it. But Burning Moon was just one of those ones that I got. I'm trying to remember how I got it. I don't think I was a video clerk at that point. I think it was after, but it was just one of those where you'd heard about it and all of that. So I want to say I got it. It was just one of the ones I got from either Hits Video or Video Library I guess it was the late 90s, early 2000s. But I just remember feeling like it only had really about 10 minutes worth of good stuff in it. And the rest was kind of just like, but I think it's because I was waiting for all of that. And I was expecting this wall to wall horrible thing. Like there was one of his movies that people compared the ending of it to Dead Alive. And I remember seeing that and thinking like, oh, that's not even close. You know what I mean?
Right. I think the people are talking about Premutos. I think that's
yeah. It must have been that
closer.
Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must have been that one that I was thinking of hearing. And it was like, well, Burning Moon is closer, but it still even only has about under 10 minutes of like what would be solid gore, but like a 5-minute stretch. But I saw that it was on Shudder. So when you said that you were thinking of doing an episode about it, I was like, well, I enjoyed being on the video violence one. Seeing these brings back a lot of memories for me watching those back in the day. So I was like, well, I could just go to Shudder and grab Burning Moon and watch it. So I did, and I took some pretty hilarious notes.
It's hard not to. There's a lot of really weird and funny shit that happens in the Burning Moon. One, obviously, just like we had talked about on the violent shit episodes, Olaf Ittenbach and Andreas Schnaas are two of the more well-known shot on video dudes from Germany that came out with these gore movies at this time. And while the gore is fairly similar between the two directors, it's obvious where the talent in storytelling went, and that is Olaf Ittenbach. The Burning Moon, compared to even Premutos that we talked about and made reference to, is very much a story-driven piece. Even though the stories are crazy and fucked up and take turns that you don't expect, it's still trying to do a creep show type anthology film. And it's hard to really say that this is a fun watch in any way, because the movie is very, very dark. Mm-hmm. This is a very mean-spirited, dark, nihilistic film. From frame one until the very end, there's very little to smile over. I think some of the funny stuff, it could be because the translation makes things funny more than anything else. It's not necessarily, I don't think the film at all is trying to be silly. It may be, but I didn't get that. I just felt like the translation of some of the dialogue was just so jarring that it made it really funny. Amanda, what did you think of how people acted in the Burning Moon?
Scheiße! That cracked me up. How often they said Scheiße was being funny. But no, I thought it was funny. I think what impressed me about the film and what I took away from it on a whole was like, if me and my buddies had made this film shot on video, I'd have been really proud of myself, because I think it's obvious that everybody who was working on it was really putting everything they had into it.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. If you have picked up the Intervision DVD that they put out about 6 years or so ago of this, they have a 40-minute plus behind the scenes documentary. It's basically just like somebody was going around and shooting behind the scenes while they made this. And shockingly enough, they had a dolly, they had a jib. Yeah. This was
like a legit production.
It was a legit production. And I'm guessing from the look of this, they shot this on 3/4 inch. Mm-hmm. I don't think this was a VHS production whatsoever. The quality of the video is far above the vast majority of the stuff that we've talked about up until this point. It's more along the lines of video violence in terms of production value and in terms of storytelling technique, even though it still comes from the Herschel Gordon Lewis gruesome twosome school of cinematography and lighting, where you just get a couple flat lights and just let them go. make sure people are in frame and they're lit flatly. But other than that, for a shot on video horror film, this looks really good. Mark, were you kind of surprised at the production value of this flick?
Yeah, I was. Not just the gore, but just the overall film in general. Not saying the other ones didn't have care, but this one, it felt like they had a lot more effort in the production in this, and the overall value of it. I was impressed, even down to the gentleman's, late 80s Eurythmics trench coat that facility wore.
I think the wardrobe in general in this movie is rather interesting, especially the gangs in the kid. They looked like mall, like kids you would see at the mall in the early 90s, as opposed to gang members. Like their wardrobe was so off-putting. It didn't match what these characters were at all.
No,
in the very opening scene when it shows the kind of title kid, as soon as he got out of the car, I'm like, Derrick, what the fuck is in that kid's ear? His earring was so huge and was reflecting off the light so much that I said, this is like distracting.
But yeah, the production in general, I mean, you get to that gang fight, which we mentioned, and I'm watching this going, wow, this feels like a legit fight for the time and what they're shooting on. I'm like, this is actually getting a little brutal. I mean, a guy gets his head put through a car window, which I'm not sure that was a fake window.
I really think that, when that scene happens, because in the beginning, this kid is trying to get a job. He's at a job interview and he basically tells the guy, I don't need this. Fuck off. Suck my dick or something like that. And he walks out. And then they go to this gang fight, and immediately the tone is set for the level of violence in this movie. It's not a normal gang fight where they're just, fisticuffs and all that. No, they have switchblades. They're cutting each other. They're smashing heads on concrete. I mean, it is a super, super dark film. Andrew, were you kind of surprised with how dark this was?
I was really just, the first time I saw it, I think it wasn't really fair, because I was just looking for the gore and that was it. But watching Burning Moon now, particularly after having made so many movies, I was surprised at how cinematic it was, how competently it was made. I do think it was 3/4 inch, but whereas video violence didn't bother to light half the time. The times when it did, it looked really great. There were a lot of scenes in this where I just flat out forgot that it was shot on video. I was just watching it like a regular movie. I was happy with that. And, maybe it was because it was German. The darkness and the violence and the nihilism just seemed to kind of be like, it made, I don't know why, but it made, I guess because of the amount of like Jörg Bucharest that I've seen also. Yeah. It just reminded me of kind of that tone. So I was more shocked at the moments of humor than I was at the really screwed up stuff, I think.
Did you find this to be a really funny movie intentionally?
No, not intentionally. I just found it hilarious because I was like, well, this guy looks like Duran Duran and Billy Joe Armstrong fucked each other. And then, the acid wash versus denim gang fight, I thought was really, really funny.
Let's talk about the fashion in this fucking movie.
I don't want to harp on it, but it's just more of like, you go to all this trouble to make your gore. So, they put so much effort into that. And you're like, well, what should I wear to the gang rumble? Oh, well, what you got on?
Yeah. It basically looked like a bunch of his buddies, and he didn't have time to really get a wardrobe for any of them. He's like, just come. I have never seen gangs that came to a fight with acid wash jeans and shirts tucked into their acid wash jeans.
It just amazes me that a guy like this doesn't know anyone that wears black, Because the story about Reservoir Dogs was all that they gave those guys were the ties. They all brought their own clothes. That's why Buscemi is wearing those black jeans and Madsen had those cowboy boots. You know what I mean? That was all just their clothes that they brought. But I was like, you mean to tell me the guy that made this German gore movie don't know nobody with black pants or a black shirt, or one
Apparently
trench coat.
Not.
Even the one trench coat in the movie is, Patrick Bateman almost clear,
Yeah. Do you think that it was his decision to have the main character have the most obnoxiously huge earring possible that he could find?
I think it was more of just, he wanted this guy to be like a punk, just super obnoxious and, kicking his mom's ass and being, abusive to his whole family. I mean, everybody just wants everybody dead in this movie,
Yeah, that's the main thing to walk away and why I said this is a very nihilistic film is that literally there is no happiness to be found. Mm-mm. The parents obviously look like normal people, and his sister looked like, a sweet little girl. But this dude was an absolute fucking scumbag piece of shit.
Big time.
But he looked like he literally was a mall punk.
Yeah.
Like he obviously shopped at at the mall, I'm surprised he didn't have a hypercolor shirt on.
But it works for him to be a jerk. If he were having, if he'd had tattoos and looked like he walked out of a Wasp video or something, I think that would have been a little easier to do. So, as we're talking about, I think it's more shocking for him to look preppy or average,
Yeah.
to be such a awful person.
For those huge holes in the knees of his jeans.
He probably bought them like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well yeah, but I remember that back then. That was kind of the bit of the rebellious part of back then. You wore ripped jeans, and so he had really ripped jeans.
Yeah. Well, I think he was a suburban kid that wanted to rebel on out. So him and his buds decided to form a gang. I didn't quite understand why they were having a gang fight, but I don't think it matters. I don't think
just kings.
Yeah, they're just kids. So
I think that's a little bit of the culture thing because it was trying to bring out, how he was a real punk. At first, I thought it was going to be hooligans fight, just like a couple of soccer fans fighting with each other at first because it is
knocking over a dustbin in Shaftesbury.
Yeah. The way they were dressed, but I think it was just trying to get over the idea further that he's a punk because you've seen in other films from overseas where that's kind of the signature for if you're really a bad kid or whatnot, you're real punk. You're part of a gang, and they're slightly different gangs than what we have here, but still, I think that was just to further the idea that he's this punk rebellious kid, and that's why he's in this gang of t-shirts.
I wouldn't say it was a bleak thing. I just think it's an overall kind of just an angry tone. The movie's just, it's horrible because it's horror.
Yeah. Well, I want to split this conversation obviously up into 3 parts, which is the wraparound and the 2 other stories. So let's talk a little bit more about this wraparound here. The wraparound story, once it turns to the point where he gets home and he decides he's going to shoot up drugs because his parents are deciding to go have a night out on the town, and the kid wants nothing to do with it, and he decides to go in the other room and shoot up some dope. Some of Ittenbach's influences become very apparent very quickly. The kid shoots up dope, goes outside, and the reason this is called the burning moon is he has a vision of this burning moon outside after he shoots up dope. And then all of a sudden, the film looks very reminiscent of a Mario Bava film. The lights all turn blue and red, which is some of the only real stylistic lighting flourishes of the film. Mark, did you kind of like when they started using some color gels in this to indicate mood and darkness?
Yeah, I think, for the type of film it is, that was the best way they could go about it. And I kind of liked it. It gave a little bit of different mood, a little bit different depth to some of the scenes, the way they were lit. You could definitely tell it was meant to be a different perspective than what we first saw him with his parents and that at. And yeah, I like that transition a bit. It added to the dark creepiness already because, here this guy's babysitting his younger sister and you're already going, this is a bad situation. She'd be better off being, babysat by no one.
Yes. Yeah. So, as we find out, absolutely.
Absolutely later on. But I mean, at this point in the film, it added to the creepiness and the darkness overall tone of the film. It just took it to another dark level to where you're like, okay, this really is not going to be a happy time.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved some of those flourishes, the cinematic flourishes, a lot more obviously than the score. I felt the score was very out of place in a lot of ways. Amanda, did you like the score of this movie at all?
No, I felt the same way you did. It was kind of like, what? Every once in a while, it didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it kind of belied the tone of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was whoever did the score. I don't know if he got it on the cheap or whatnot. For all of the attention he put into the cinematography of this thing, the score just felt totally out of place. Totally out of place. So to wrap up the wrap up of this, Amanda, what did you think overall of the wrap up, like the wraparound, the story to get into the rest of these stories?
Oh, I thought it was good. It made sense to me how that played into the other stories. Like, you know, in an anthology, sometimes you're always wondering how is it going to feed into the actual vignettes within it. And I thought that was a reasonable transition, that he's reading her, you know, sadistic as it may be, he's reading her these tales before she goes to bed. And I did think it was strange, though, that you would have some kind of fucking blowout fight with your teenage son where he's slapping your wife around and you're getting into a fight with him. And then you're like, yeah, well,
peace out.
Okay, we'll see you later. Take care of Christy. Peace out. Yeah. I thought that was very strange. That felt really goofy, but aside from that, it was fine.
I think a lot of the wraparound is really goofy. Like, why would this kid decide he's going to tell his sister before bed two of the most disgusting stories?
Because he's an asshole.
I was going to say, he's all doped up and he's an asshole.
He's doped up. He's clearly got something like has violent tendencies. He's in these gang fights. He's doing dope and he's doing all kinds of other weird, nefarious shit. So he's going to off himself. Why not? What's it going to hurt to just tell your little sister? You know, I'm sure he's thinking in his teenage angst, you know, like, fuck this shit. I'm going to kill myself. Well, I'm going to fuck her up on the way out too. And then just tells her these gross ass stories.
It was interesting. Mark, what did you think of the wraparound?
Yeah, overall, I mean, it was one of those where it was one of those wraparounds where it kind of served its purpose to bring you the other two stories. But as far as the story by itself, I felt it was a little bit random. I knew what they were going for in it, but it didn't quite feel like it. And especially how the wraparound ends. I don't know if you want to get into it right away, but just how that ends. I'm like, personally, I would have liked it to where he didn't do what he did to his sibling.
Go ahead. We can tell it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Go ahead.
After the two stories, it gets revealed that he actually killed he kills his little sister, and before he kills himself. And for me, that didn't work. Not just, I mean, it's a horror movie, you know, and a kid's getting off, so that you know, getting killed. So that's always a little disturbing, but I thought it would have actually been more of an impact had he told these two extraordinarily disturbing and twisted stories to her and then said, yeah, good night, you know, and just left her.
And then killed himself.
So he, you know, that I think would have had a little more impact for me, because here he's just totally, you know, he's just totally fucked up his sister mentally with these two stories before she goes to bed. And then he goes to kill himself and leaves her completely screwed up for the rest of her life, or at least for her childhood, and getting some serious therapy. You know, I think it would have been a little bit more effective than that, but it did feel like it was just mainly to serve a reason to have the two stories, more so than actually be a nice own self-contained story. I mean, it has a plot, but of the three, I think it's the weaker of the stories.
There's absolutely no doubt about that. It is very, very random. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this wraparound?
It was funny. I mean, you know, Dead Time Stories have that shithead uncle that tells the kid those fucked up stories, you know. I would kind of expected when they cut back after the first one that he's tied her up, you know, but instead she just goes like, stop it. I don't want to hear your stupid stories. Like, he's just told her this murder shit. She should be like, cowering or catatonic or rocking back and forth or, something like that, overeating. But instead she, that was dumb. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? We just saw like 800 heads come off.
Yeah, literally. She's like, oh man, come on,
quit it.
Maybe she isn't very good at imaginative play. Maybe in her mind, this wasn't very frightening because she's not a very good imaginative player.
Well, or
in that case, she should have turned to Satan at the end and killed him.
that would have been fucking boss.
That's a good story. Pow.
There you go. So let's go ahead and move on to the first story, which is a story about a serial killer that goes on a blind date. Now, Mark, you want to talk about this one a little bit?
I think you summed it up there. I'm watching this movie going, okay, it's a serial killer. Okay, he escapes and he's like, all right, we get some brutal kills in here. And then meanwhile, we get this single lady talking about, I've got this date. And you're like, okay. And then it even takes you a minute to realize that the date she's with is the serial killer, which I thought was kind of an interesting setup. But yeah, I dug it. I'm just like, the serial killer decides to go on a date. Okay. It's a little bit random, but we don't get a whole lot of info on the serial killer. So maybe that's kind of his MO.
He has needs too, Mark.
I know he's a lonely guy. And, the dates seemed to be going well until he tried to, take her head off.
Well, until she found out he was a serial killer.
Yeah, until she finds out he's a serial killer. And she leaves. I actually liked how this story played out, though. I mean, it's one of those things where you're seeing some of these things happen that you've seen happen in big budget films later on, so it's still one of those stories where she accidentally drops her wallet and he tracks her down to her place, and then it's fight for your life scenario against serial killer with people getting in the way, getting horribly killed. But yeah, I dug the story. I thought it was it was definitely a quirky film, a story, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I kind of dug the guy who was playing the serial killer because we don't really, if I remember correctly, we don't really get a picture of him in the beginning when he's escaping, do we? We don't really get a good view of him. You hear
it's one of those setups where it's all on a radio broadcast.
Right. Yep. So you don't really know what he looks like. So it kind of surprised me a little bit that he was a serial killer, because here he is kind of looking like a Mr. Suave guy going, you don't have to kill the ladies. You're a lady killer, but don't take it literally, man.
Burr, burr, burr. Now, Amanda felt that the date at the restaurant was a rather funny scene. You want to talk about their conversation at the restaurant when he's on his blind date with the woman? I remember you laughing a lot about it.
Because it was random. They were jumping all over to and fro, and the flow of their conversation was really bizarre and just all over the place. And I don't know. It was just weird.
Well, yeah, they're just talking about the most random things. Then all of a sudden he stops the conversation and goes, I just want you to know, I think this date is going really well. And I really like you.
And then she's like, yeah, so then blah, blah, blah. And just picks up like nothing happened. And it was too much, man. I was dying.
It was of everything that's in this movie, this is probably the most straightforward story of the entire piece. It was a very linear, it was very easy to follow. Yeah. You kind of knew where it was going. Yeah. Andrew, this first piece, I felt I'd love to find out what you think about this. I kind of thought that it kind of took its sweet ass time to get to the point, because as we had talked about before, there is an expectation with, if you've seen any of the trailers or if you knew the infamy of this movie, that this was this super hard gore piece. And up until this point, there's really next to nothing of gore. There's a little bit in this piece, but it really takes its sweet time to get there. Now, did this piece kind of try your patience at all?
Well, it seems like what the movie is doing is kind of building up to the level of violence that happens in the climax of the second story, because I think Inbach probably realized that if he goes balls out right from the beginning, you can't keep up that pace. Otherwise, the audience, the ending's not going to have the punch that it has,
Yeah.
And so he did have to kind of slowly build it. Do I think that probably these were two feature ideas he had that he couldn't flesh out the full length? Is possible that that's what happened. And that's why they kind of, they run long or whatever. Could it benefit from a third story? I don't know, maybe. But it would have made these two, it would have made the wait for the last one take even longer. But I did enjoy some of the stuff about this. I know you like the shitty dummy.
Oh, that was the best. Holy shit. When that dummy gets hit by the car, Amanda looked at me and started patting me, and I was giggling like crazy.
That's funny. I'm glad you mentioned it, Andrew. I totally forgot to mention it because the minute I saw the shitty dummy scene, I'm like, oh, Derrick's going to just shit.
Shitty dummy, yeah. There's some side boob, but otherwise no real nudity. I think, yeah, like the rapist shows his butt, but that's not a sex scene, so... There's not. I mean, my only problems were he really screwed up the opportunities for shower scenes in this, because there was I think it's the only horror movie I've seen where it's a post shower scene. So it picks up right as she's gotten out and put on her robe. You don't even get putting on the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, for such an exploitive and really dark film to not also include the sex in there was kind of weird.
Why do you think I liked it so much? Why do you think I like this movie? Because it's just straight.
Well, you already gave your hand away. Amanda likes this movie.
Yeah.
But
why I wasn't repulsed and annoyed while we were watching it,
There are things I liked about it. He murders Kelly Osbourne and throws her head on somebody's hood. There's a part with there's a part where someone puts their hand in some butter and he chops the fingers off, so it's Butterfinger. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was really funny. And the best is the eyeball cam. He puts an eyeball into a girl's mouth, and there's a shot from the inside of the mouth. I thought was really, really good. But other than that, there's a weird wedding fantasy, and there's a gratuitous dog petting at one point. So it does.
Gratuitous. That sounds like something that Joe Bob Briggs would put in his review.
Yeah, eyeball
inside boob, gratuitous dog petting,
and the white trench coat. Yeah, no, it does kind of. But I do think there's a method to that. I do think that he is building up to that. Clearly, his biggest part of the production, which kind of keep you going. But I think the funniest part about it is the woman, once she realizes she's just been on a date with a serial killer, chooses not to call the police, but rather to write it off as, just another nutball that I went out with.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that got me too. I'm sitting here going, I wrote that. I couldn't find my notes, but I remember writing that in the notes going, oh yeah, he's a serial killer. What are you going to do? I should have swiped right. They did.
Oh, humding. Now just knock this one down to bed.
But I got to admit, though, she, unlike some other people in horror movies, she was smart enough to get the fuck out of there immediately.
Yes. He's behind her wallet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that was just a goof. She didn't mean to do it.
No.
I did like that when the killer finally gets his comeuppance, it turns out the head he threw went onto a cop car. So the cop eventually shows up. Sorry, I'm late. Some asshole threw a head on my car. Or something like that. But with one shot from his, sidearm, killer's head just explodes.
Oh, I loved it. That's the thing about these shot and video films, is that because they're the quality of the productions compared to regular, movies that we've grown accustomed to that were shot on film, they had to amp up the exploitive elements of the film, and the gore is just so over the top. And this serial killer film, I would have loved to have seen a legitimate slasher from him back in the day, because I think he could have really pulled it off. The violence when the killer starts killing is pretty gross.
Yeah.
And it goes, he kills that one, the main girl's roommate, and there's just blood everywhere.
And fire. He sets her on fire too.
Yes. He sets her on fire in the bathtub.
Yeah, because she locks herself in the bathtub and then looks over and there's her smoldering roommate.
Yeah,
Just, I'm like, oh man, and you could almost smell it burning.
Yeah,
What surprised me, you mentioned the eyeball cam, and the cinematography for a shot on video actually surprised me. Not just the eyeball cam, but I'm going to say the slinky shot I really liked.
Gratuitous slinky.
Gratuitous slinky, along with gratuitous petting.
But you get shots like that surprised me for a shot on video film. Some of those shots that he has in here surprise you because you don't expect that type of shot to be done with a film like this.
Correct. So let's go around the horn. Amanda, your thoughts on the serial killer blind date movie?
Oh, I liked it.
You like this one?
Yep, I liked it.
Cool.
I
Mark?
thought it was funny.
Yep, I dug it. Especially, I wanted that coat. I really wanted his coat.
Andrew?
I threw a head at you. Ha! What's up now? Yeah, man. I mean, could it have been a whole movie? Yeah, probably. Somebody that could write, but just, as such, it has, I mean, people are watching SOV now. It's going on through this resurgence because they want to see lots of gore, right? You got it.
Yeah. Well, they want to see ridiculousness and kitsch and lots of gore. This movie is, obviously, we've said the fashion is out of this world ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, video violence beats it on all of those and does have the nudity that this doesn't, but just in sheer brutality, this one's definitely the one.
Oh yeah, I sort of liked the first story, the serial killer blind date. I kind of think it drug on way too long. So
needed a shower scene.
Yeah, I'm with you on this big time, Andrew. I just think you're just waiting for something to happen for far too long in this movie. I mean, the opening with the wraparound took its sweet ass time to get where it was going. Then this story took its sweet ass time to get where it was going. And then when it got where it was going, it was pretty fun. Mm-hmm. But it just like a good half hour almost goes by where not a hell of a lot happens.
I was expecting, because we got so far into the movie before things really started picking up. I asked Derrick how many vignettes were in it because I was expecting there to be at least 3. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because all like other anthology films that I've seen have always had at least 3, like Creepshow and of course Hole in the Wall and just things like that. So, because it does feel a little slow in the beginning.
Yeah, the stories are long. They're long because, there's really only 3 stories to this thing. So if I have to complain about anything, it's just that it takes a really long time for this movie to start going. And this first one, I would say maybe my least favorite of everything. I actually kind of like the wraparound a little bit better because that lead character is such a putz. And he's
a real Barney Fife of punks.
God, he is the most hypercolor mall punk you ever saw in your whole life. I'm surprised he didn't wear Zubas.
That's why do you think he was so angry?
He didn't get that pair of Kansas City Chiefs Zubaz pants. So
Chiefs.
Anyways, so let's move on to the piece de la resistance of the Burning Moon, which is the purity. So the purity, Andrew, would you tell my listeners what our last story, the purity, is about?
Sure, man. The Purity takes place in 1957 in a small village where a murdering priest rapes and murders people, and the community blames another guy. And the priest lets it happen and lets the guy get his ass kicked a lot. He ends up shooting his twin brother, I guess, on his couch. There's another guy that looks exactly like the priest, which kind of is a little mind-blowing. And
it was very confusing.
But he sacrifices his wife to cocaine Satan and has his Hassan chopped knife and bloody man boobs, and it ends in hell.
Oh my God.
That was the best summary I think you could have for that story.
Yeah. It's seriously, this last story is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And it perhaps maybe one of the darkest stories I've ever seen in an anthology film. It is just pitch black, I think. Amanda's looking at me very quizzically. Why are you looking at me this way?
It's just strange to me, out of what I know you've seen just in the last 2 years of our relationship, that you're like losing your mind over this movie. I've seen the films we've watched together. This is nowhere near, to me, the grossest, goriest film. I'm just like perplexed by this. Maybe you just really, really, really talked it up to try and prepare me for it. But I'm like not understanding why this is so. But also, I didn't see it when it first, like, I wasn't really into movies like you were in the same way when it first came out. You know, like in 92, I was busy doing other shit.
Well, I remember. Well, what you mean? You were living a life? Is that what we're getting to here?
It sounded like that's what you. Sounded like. Well, the rest of you were just sitting in your basements watching gory films.
Yeah.
I had a life.
That sounded like nerd. That sounded like nerd shaming. You better check your privilege at the door.
I was 9 years old in 1992. Jesus.
You better check that privilege.
I was in my basement listening to Primus, I'll have you know.
Actually, I watched my older brother. My older brother is 7 years older than me. And he was still living at home when I was 9, and he was a big Primus fan. So I was actually in his bedroom, which was in the basement, listening to Primus.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do you want me to give you the reason why this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one of those movies that, as I had said before, back in the day, was very notorious. And there were times where I had gotten copies of this. And for some reason, there's just certain movies that hit you at a certain time in your life, and they kind of give you the heebie-jeebies from that point on. Mm-hmm. Early on, I went as a kid to a birthday party in which the mom took all of us to go see Pet Sematary in the movie theater.
Wow, rock.
And that movie fucked me up for a really long time.
Yeah.
And there was something about the tone of this movie when I first saw it that just never went away with me.
Oh.
It's so dark. And I think it is, as we've been kind of building up to, as Andrew's been stating, there is the ultimate climax of the entire piece, The Burning Moon, which is essentially the priest, this killer priest, ends up sacrificing himself in order to go to hell, and brings back to life the guy that's been framed for all of his nefarious deeds, after the town has hired a hitman in order to kill him, because the town is basically a lynch mob at that point.
Right.
A very discreet hitman, very professional.
Yeah. Very, professional, discreet, where everyone in town knows that this is happening, even the cops. And the hitman then gets killed and taken to hell. And the hell sequence goes on for like 10, 15 minutes. And it is so dark, so violent, so in your face, and so unrelenting that it to me, when I first saw this at a younger age, I was kind of put aside at the really nihilistic tone. I wasn't expecting it because the rest of the movies plays pretty straight. Like, it's not a very really dark. It's dark, but it's not dark to the level of that hell sequence that's in this movie. And to this day, even though now watching it for this episode, I do think some of that tones, maybe it is because I've just
matured. And
I don't. Oh, are you saying I wasn't mature before? Is that what's going on?
Geez.
Check your privilege, sister.
I'm maturing in the fact that your movie catalog has matured. Like, you've seen a lot of things. And
now that my show is basically turned into a ghoul show, all we watch are these super hyper gory movies. But I think the makeup effects and the gore effects aren't holding up. As figure out it back in the 90s when this came out, that gore that stuff
Well,
was highly effective.
I even said when we were watching it, I was like, holy cry, these practical effects are really good. I mean, for like shot on video, this is incredible.
Yeah. I was raised Roman Catholic, and the thought of, and if you're a Roman Catholic, you live in fear of hell,
right?
And of your of what you've done in your life.
Yeah.
And the thought that that's hell scared the shit out of me.
How old were you when you saw this?
Oh, I was a teenager.
Yeah. I'm a removed Roman Catholic, and basically that first time you get morning wood, you're going to feel like you're going to catch fire and get pulled down into the bowels of hell.
Yeah. So I think there was one time where I watched this and it really freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like that sequence. I mean, the story itself is pretty dark and pretty gross because that priest is a total slime.
Scumbag,
yeah. He's a total fucking scumbag, and he's raping and killing and just unrelenting darkness. And then that hell sequence, some reason, just like really messed with my head for a long time because it is so over the top. The gore is so fucking over the top that it's something to behold. Even to this day, I think it's still it's something.
By it. Yeah, I was quite impressed.
Andrew, what do you think of the climax of this thing?
You know, the idea of shooting yourself to get to hell is disturbing. I'll give it that. But for you know, the hitman going to hell or whatever, I did remember it being a bit more hard to stomach than it was this time. Maybe it's because I have so many friends that work on haunted attractions and stuff. This played kind of like they just go into a haunted attraction full of, like, you know, rubbery body parts, smoke, gauze, things like that. Some stuff is on fire. There's tiger noises, a couple butts.
Yeah. There's your nudity, Andrew.
A bloody codpiece, my favorite. There's just a cutaway to blood flying on a guy's codpiece. Yes. But it was the hitman's torture scene that I found to be the most effective. It's very brightly lit. The takes are very long, and there's this like blindfolded maniac surgeon just eviscerating this guy. And there's like a couple of corkscrews, I think one in the eye, one in the chest. But it really goes really far to the point where they quarter him. I think they rip. They tear his legs. They tear his legs to tear him sort of in half, and the legs one way and then the other. And by that point, I was like, "Yep." I mean, this guy really, really is saving this for the end to just make people go like, "I'm gonna puke. I can't take anymore." But it's not like Dead Alive, which is gorier and probably the goriest movie I've ever seen. But Dead Alive is cartoonish. This is not a cartoonish story. This is very dark and serious subject matter they're dealing with. There's a lot of childhood trauma happening there. The kid, I think, sees Satan when he's like 8 or something like that. The first time. There's murder all through it. And so for this to be like a vengeance thing, a supernatural vengeance thing, you know, the sins of things occurring in real life carrying over into, you know, the afterlife, and this idea that you can never actually die, is really disturbing stuff. So it is, you know, kind of silly and rubbery, and he goes on for too long. And you're like, okay, I get it. This guy's got all his stuff in his basement. He just threw some blood on and has a lot of, you know, the audio's great, all the screaming and stuff, but it's that torture scene and that murder, the hitman finally getting, cause you know, like you did with the cop exploding the guy's head, you want some ultimate payoff. Remember, I think it was, which Seagal movie is it, where he's looking for the same guy for the whole end of the movie, and by the time he finally finds him at the end, he just shoots him like 900 times because it's the end of the movie? I think it's maybe Out for Justice. All of them, Andrew. Yeah, it was in particular. I think it was Out for Justice, because you're like, okay, there he is finally. Like, one bullet's not good enough, you know? And obviously Seagal doesn't have the bullet that explodes the head, so unfortunately. But I found that torture scene, again, full bright light. That's really, you don't see that a lot, because a lot of times with gore, particularly even now with all our special effects, we have a lot of quick cutting going on, a lot of close-ups going on, a lot of dark theatrical lighting going on. This thing happens right in front of you.
We have seen worse gore now at this point. I think fans of underground gore films, I think films like Flower of Flesh and Blood go way further and are even darker and more nihilistic and sadistic than this. The guinea pig movies in general are. but there's something about the thematic undercurrent that's going through this whole piece that makes that hell sequence kind of hit pretty hard. Mark,
he's told a story, man. I'm sorry. He's told a story, and it's all about context.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's totally the reason why it hit me back in the day. And even to this day, I still think it's, if you can let yourself get lost in that story and not think of the production value, not think of how rubbery things are, and not think of that dude's ass that shows up in the bloody cod piece and all that stuff, I still think it's really effective. Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to put myself, when it first came out, and I could definitely see how this scene, especially when it first came out, would really bug people. As you said, we've kind of become desensitized because there's people been always trying to outdo the other as far as gore, especially in some of the underground and lower budget cinema. So, but for me, I'm with Andrew. While most of the stuff in there, while it looked good, I was with Amanda, it looked really good, especially for the time it was made. I'm like, holy crap, some of those guts really look like guts. And, where you got the crazy guy going around shooting people. This torture scene got me as well because they do drilling into the guy's teeth.
Oh, that was so brutal.
And it looked like they were drilling into these dudes' teeth. And I'm like, I'm like squirming in my chair a little going, because it's not just like you would maybe get nowadays where it's like a quick, okay, here's the idea of him drilling teeth. No, they got a close up of him getting teeth drilled, and you're holding his mouth, and that goes on.
Doesn't cut away.
Nope, not at all.
It doesn't cut away. It goes maybe from a closer to a medium shot, but you're still there. He's still drilling. And, the way he moves the lips and everything, it looks like they're actually drilling into that guy's teeth. And then that set it up, because that's the first torture thing they did, for everything they do to him afterwards. And there's a little ode to Hellraiser in there when he does get quartered, because the chains come flying out and wrap around his ankles, which I thought was a really cool effect. That torture scene, though, especially with the way it lit and the surgeon guy who was really freaking creepy, that scene really was like, wow, that got me, more so than the rest, which was, kind of in the basement guy. But that torture scene specifically really was solid and disturbing. And I was like, okay, yeah, they really put thought in it. It's almost like he had this short here, this one with the priest thought up, and he wanted to distribute it, but he needed more because he couldn't just distribute this short story. And so he came up with the other two so he could do this one, is almost the feeling.
Yeah, I could see that. I really could, because this obviously is the best piece of the entire thing. There's no doubt about it. Could it have been a feature? I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
No, it would have overstayed its welcome had it been a feature, but it was a story he wanted to get out there. And that's before there was a festival every day in the world, a film festival where you could submit it to. So, I think the other two came up. He had this idea first, and he came up this one because, it's the most solid, the most disturbing, more thought out, even more depth to it than the other pieces. And I think those other pieces' main purpose was really to get you to this one.
Yeah. And I think, not to keep going on and on about this, but I really do think it's kind of like when someone tells you a joke and the joke goes on far too long and then it turns around and starts being funny again. There's something about the fact that the violence is so protracted and goes on for so long that, unlike you guys, for some reason, it bothers me. It just like the tone of it is just so pitch black.
Well, I mean, like I wouldn't watch it like before bedtime or anything, but I mean, it's effective because of the level of confidence Olaf Inbach has in his effects and in his filmmaking abilities and the quality of what he's got. And I think that's what hits the hardest. A lot of times when we see this kind of stuff, you can tell that they know their stuff looks a little rubbery, or that they don't want people getting like too long of a look, or like I said, like kind of deliberately hiding it with dark lighting or or a quick cutting or something like that. It's the confidence that he has in his material and his presentation and his effects that really, I think, is what nails you with it. You're like, this guy is serious. He knows what he's doing, and that's a scary place to be in, because even as horror fans of extreme gore, we don't often find ourselves there. Certainly without the kind of setup that would make it have any kind of emotional impact or weight from a story. So probably what your antenna is picking up is a bit of all that.
Yeah. Well, and also because of that, he's able to manipulate the audience very well, because you're sucked into what's going on, and it works well. And the fact of the matter is, halfway through this film, when the level of violence starts kicking up and this story gets into full swing, you know that nothing is out of bounds.
Yeah.
There's no safety net. It's going to go to places you can just tell that something's going to happen that you're not going to be comfortable with. and that is what I think, if you're going to be looking for a hard gore piece, it's the only way to go. Don't hold back. You have to go full tilt boogie on it. There's no doubt. And that's, there's times on this podcast where we've really talked about, we don't like pitch black nihilism just for the sake of it, because for the most part, it has a very mean-spirited and misguided undercurrent to it that it hates its subjects and kind of makes fun of them. And this is something different, where I think he just really wanted to tell some really crazy ass stories. And it wasn't about, I'm a real douchebag asshole and I want to show, women getting degraded and all this other stuff just for the sake of it, while I secretly behind the scenes fuck them while I'm making this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all appropriate for his story. I mean, a serial killer, going on a spree. I mean, all the gore is definitely appropriate. And then in hell, I mean, the guy describes what hell is like to the guy sitting across from the table, and everything he says totally happens. Yeah.
And I think the cherry on top is when he's in hell, and that doctor, when he's vivisecting the guy, basically telling him, I'm very excited you're here. You get to enjoy a level of pain and pleasure nobody will ever know, and it will go on forever. I'm looking forward to showing you that world. That's sucks. Fucked up.
Hell really sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks, man.
It really sucks. So
Scheiße.
It really sucks.
Suck my dick, man.
Kick dich du ein.
Oh, Christ.
Isn't there one part where he's yelling at his dad and they don't subtitle "fuck you" because he just in English "fuck you"?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and just talk about the movie overall and give our final thoughts on how we feel. Amanda, when all is said and done, after all of this disgustingness, you already let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah,
you liked this movie.
It.
What was it about this that you really liked?
I think what it was is that, again, if this were me and my friends making this movie, I'd be really proud of it. The practical effects were incredible for what it was. I felt like it was put together really well. The production value is pretty strong. And as you know, and probably all the listeners know by now, there was they didn't mix a lot of sexual violence. Of course, there is rape in the beginning of the one storyline, but it doesn't return to...
It's not gratuitous. It doesn't constantly dwell in that.
It's just constantly dwelling in that. So that's fine for me. But I liked it. I would watch it again.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I would watch it again.
That is shocking.
I know that's really probably very surprising to you.
That's very surprising to me.
I would watch it again.
Wow. Wowza, Mark.
I dug it. It's part of the reason why I wanted to do these shot on video episodes on here, is because I wanted to see more. And it looking at it, as Amanda put it, if I was friends with a camera and I shot this film, it's something that you'd really, really be able to hang your hat on, because it's a story. It has real effort. It's not just people in their backyard shooting, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you can really tell they were putting they put some serious effort and thought into this, and this was a really dark story. I almost have a feeling the director was trying to bury some inner demons he had, or thoughts anyway in this film. And yeah, for when it came out, especially, this film was well done, and it's surprising. And I think it would surprise people for when it came out, some of the stuff that happens in here. And even though we do see a lot of gore and stuff, I could definitely see that final hell sequence still disturbing a lot of people to this day. People who may not be used to this genre, seeing that, and the fact that it is done on a VHS tape might actually affect them more, because it has a less polished look to it, so it almost feels real. And some of those gut scenes, and the guy cut in half and another guy comes and steals the dude's entrails, and it's like, that's some pretty screwed up shit right there, so yeah, I dug it. I'm not sure if it'd be a regular watch, but it would definitely.
You're not going to put this on with the wife and kids?
No, I'm not going to put on with the wife and kids. But if someone did ask, what's kind of an old school kind of twisted movie, got a recommendation, it is one that would be higher up on my recommendation list to see, because it's one of the better put together shot on video films that, yeah, it's dark and disturbing, and there's a lot of brutal things in here. Just a side note, the composer of the soundtrack to this was his first film. He did do the music for Prenatal, and he did the music for Garden of Love, both films, I think, by the same director. So just a side note on that. But yeah, I dug it. I would recommend it to someone who was looking for a shot on video film, disturbing shot on video films to watch.
Cool. Andrew, coming back to this after all these years, how'd you fare? What do you ultimately think?
Well, I enjoy looking at this movie kind of through the lens of the shot on video fans, like the people that are actually attracted to this stuff, and trying to kind of piece together why this stuff works so well for them. But as a fan of film and stuff like that, and of following directors and all that, have you seen Beyond the Limits, the Olaf Inbach's Beyond the Limits?
I have not.
That is a really brutal film. There's a sequence where they have an entire dinner party murdered by this psycho. I think he's like a gangster or something like that. But just one by one, he kills all these people, and just really rough. And the movie looks great. The effects are pulled off great. I mean, this guy is a good filmmaker. I mean, even his actors, for the most part, were really great in that. And so seeing how good he was at it so early on tells me that he's a really underrated figure in horror film, and somebody that people that like gore stuff could check out and enjoy beyond just the effects. Because if you want to just see the gross stuff, you could probably go to YouTube, fast forward to the last 7 or 8 minutes of this movie, and see all this stuff we're talking about. But it isn't going to really do for you what watching the entire movie will do. But I think for me, speaking of shot on video as a whole, what I've come away from, and I started thinking about it with video violence, and I arrived at this, is that, my generation equates VHS tape with reality and with truth, because a lot of our familiarity with real life comes from having been filmed by VHS cameras when we were young, or filming people with VHS cameras when we were young. And so we are used to real life being shown back to us through this stuff. And also our earliest experiences of viewing pornography, which is real people actually having sex with each other, also is something really real about it. So there's an authenticity to it that I think just really gnaws at us and affects us in a way that HD can never. And there's a safety net with HD and even film, for that matter, that tells us we're seeing something that is fantasy. But with VHS tape, for some reason, even if it's just memories of renting some really junky, gross, scary thing at the video store on tape, this is kind of the truth. And so to see a story told like this and so effectively, it gets at you on a level that if Olaf Inbach tomorrow were to remake this and do it all with state-of-the-art effects and cinematography, it would not be as effective.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There is a certain level of disconnect with film. And I think that's why people tend to shy away from this stuff for that very reason. When you shoot a horror movie on VHS, because the definition isn't completely there. Mm-hmm. There's something it's like there's weird jumpy images. Like it's not, there's a chromatic abrasion that makes things slightly off. Nothing's totally clear. Mm-hmm. There's something real there to me. And I can't disconnect from that. And that's why I like these shot on video. And that's why they seem to work for me a lot better than a lot of the studio stuff. So The Burning Moon, going back to it, having said that, The Burning Moon has always been one of the ones that I thought were one of the better made shot on video films. Going back to it, I would have to say I only really liked the purity.
Get out!
The rest of it is just kind of meh.
It's stupid.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just kind of meh.
It is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I think Andrew made a really great point that the purity doesn't work if you don't sit through the entire movie. There's a tonality that happens and it builds to that point because everything is just so like it's done seriously, even though the translation makes everything really fucking goofy. But the tone is so pitch black that once you get to that point, it is like a sledgehammer. It does work very well. And of the shot on video stuff so far that I would say is good. I mean, we're not going to talk about, if we were going to compare Olaf Ittenbach and Andreas Schnaas, Olaf Ittenbach shits all over Andreas
violently
shits all over it. But no, not to say Andreas Schnaas is a terrible filmmaker, because I think
Schnaas is mostly interested in the effects, not the story.
Yeah, he's concerned with the gore and having fun with the gore and kind of reveling in it. I don't think that's what Ittenbach's going after here. He's looking to make truly like disturbing horror films. And if you're looking for that, The Burning Moon, I think, is a great way to go. Do I really find it as something that I'll probably toss on very much? I own it. The wonderful, if you guys want to see this and don't have Shudder, the Intervision DVD that was put out is fantastic. It is awesome. I love Intervision. I love all the stuff they put out, including Things, which I'm thoroughly shocked you don't remember Things.
I don't.
I don't know how anyone could not remember Things after they've seen it. Are you sure
you watched it with me?
1000%. We watched Things, then we watched Hobgoblins.
I remember Things because Ginger Lynn left her clothes on.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have to find a preview on YouTube or something.
Yeah, you'll have to be reminded. You have to be reminded. But anyways, I would say ultimately The Burning Moon is kind of middle of the road for me. It's okay. It's okay. But the purity, that's the shit. That's the shit. That's some fucking next level stuff. So anyways, there it is, folks. The Burning Moon. The next one we're going to do is going to be Redneck Zombies, which I can't wait to talk about that flick. I love that movie dearly. And it's been so long since I've seen it. I want to say it's well over 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm anxious to see if it still holds up to me. It's such a crass, really funny, gory movie. And I'm really looking forward to it big time. I know Mark is very excited.
I am rather excited because that was one I actually did watch back in the day, rented from the home mom and pop video store. So,
yep. I'm ready to go back and visit the Tobacco Man. And I hope you guys are too. So we are going to switch off with The Burning Moon tonight. If you guys want to continue to join us, we're going to turn over to an Astro Radio Z uncensored episode that if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll be able to hear. We're going to talk about Steve Kostanski's The Void tonight. Can't wait to talk about that. It's funny that we did kind of a double feature of The Burning Moon and The Void, which are both kind of movies that center around hell a little bit. But if you want to hear that episode, go subscribe to the Patreon. Yeah, I'm going to be that guy right now. You want to hear us talk about The Void? you can go over to Patreon for $1 measly. I'm not asking for much, dudes. I'm not asking for much. $1 measly. You can hear us talk about that. But anyways, I'm very happy we were able to do this one for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the portion of the show where we shamelessly shill the fuck out of you. Mr. Andrew Shearer, please shill for my audience.
Hey, man, my friend and I are still shooting low-budget movies here in Athens, Georgia. Not full of gore, but full of cleavage and butts. So if that's your thing, go to gonzorific.com, GONZORIFFIC. We got movies like Dr. Humpenstein's Erotic Castle and The Erotic Couch. And Amazon On Demand, we have the new one, Late Night Cable, and The Underground Cinema with an S, Pajama Nightmare. And on Prime, we have May of the Dead and Very Scary, which I think is my favorite, which is a girl clothes coming off while she's being chased by the ghost from Boo Berry cereal.
I love you, Andrew.
We all do.
It's real. You can go see it. If you have Prime, you can see it for free.
Mr. Mark the Movie Man.
SpecialMarkProductions.com is pretty much where if you go from there, you can get to all my other stuff, my YouTube channel, the Spoiler Room podcast. I'm going to be making a section there soon of stuff of when I'm privileged to be on here on Astro Radio Z. So you go there, that'll get you to other places, and also check out our Facebook group, groups/SMPRD. That's the Special Mark Productions group, where you can have a say and get a little bit better updates than what a page offers. So check it out there on the twits at Special Mark Pro. I'm there as well.
And because I got a lot of shit talked to me last week because I didn't let her shill some stuff. I don't know why. But Amanda, is there anything you want to shill here? You want a last word?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, then I'm never going to ask you that. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, which I believe our next episode is going to be about giant creature features.
Oh, fun.
I'll talk to you later.
You can find Astro Radio Z on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube, and anywhere podcasts are found. Please help us by subscribing, rating the show, and giving us a review. It helps us get the show out to more listeners. Also, if you would like to hear more of the show and be a more active participant, join the Astro Radio Z Facebook group and page, and join the Patreon. For only $1 a month, you get bonus episodes. Thank you for listening. See you next week, Astro Zombies.